get it started.
10 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock for us, 10 o'clock for you, a.m., 8 o'clock p.m. for us. Well, anyway, hey, everyone, welcome in. We appreciate you all stopping by as always. You know, this is episode 4 of Parallel Gens. Tonight, the topics we're going to be talking about are going to be accountability, spinning the block, which I'm very interested in that one because that term I had to look up and really get my bearings around that one. Recovering from heartbreakers. Those are the topics. With that being said, just be respectful. You know, we ask you to be respectful of everyone's opinions because we all have them. You know, but that doesn't mean that we have to. We're not going to agree on everything. So be respectful of everyone's opinion. All right, brother, go ahead. Your turn.
What's going on, y'all? Just like the big bro said. All right. Welcome in. Right. Excited. We got some nice topics that we're going to talk about today. All right. These are going to be some adult conversations. So please just have a listening ear. Other than that, though, let's get started.
Let's go on and jump in. So accountability. Legendary. Tell me, what does that mean to you, brother?
Whew. Accountability, in a sense, for me, just for me, right? It's just you are taking account for everything that you do, whether it's good and or bad, right? So regardless of how you feel about a certain thing, regardless if you feel if you're right or wrong, it's just you owning anything that's positive or negative that truly came from what you've done in that sense. So that's pretty much accountability for me. What about you?
Yeah, for me, I agree to everything you said. And also, like you said, not only owning everything you did or said or whatever, however it was, but making sure that if you have someone else involved in it, you go back and let them know that, hey, I recognize my part in this whole process. You know, I'm not perfect, you know, but I do recognize my part in it. And I also think it's just one of them things where in order for you to be successful in anything, you have to be able to hold yourself accountable in all aspects of your life, because if not, then you don't take accountability for anything, and you think you're perfect. And neither one of us, we've said many times throughout this whole year, really, is that we are not perfect. We've made mistakes, and the people you see before you now is not the people that we were 2, 3, 4 years ago. You know, so we truly and honestly believe in being accountable for anything and everything that we do, no matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah, so to add on to that, especially if you are in a relationship, obviously, when it comes to accountability, the easiest thing to do is to blame the other person or to say, hey, I did nothing wrong. In a sense, it's the other person's fault. But when it comes to you taking accountability, you have to cut the other person out. That's where it starts at, right? Like if I did something within a relationship, I can't involve the other person because now I'm essentially kind of shifting the blame, kind of shifting in accountability. It starts with me, right? I have to take a step back. I have to reevaluate things that I've done and then take accountability for them, whether it's good or bad. I just feel like, and then even me personally, like there's a lot of times to where it was just easier to just say, hey, you know, my partner did this, and because she did that, I reacted this way. Versus me saying, hey, maybe I could have handled that situation a little different, or maybe I could have said this, or maybe I could have watched how I delivered my message in that aspect. And because I did that, you know, not giving justice for right or wrong for my partner, but in a sense, if I would have did this a little differently, maybe we could have done this differently. So it starts with yourself. And if you can't do that for any reason, then you really have to reevaluate how it is as far as you maturing in the person that you want to be. Because again, it's easy to just blame the other person and say, hey, you know, I didn't do anything wrong. You was the one who cheated, or you was the one who did this, or you was the one who did that, versus you taking a step back and saying, hey, what did I do? And is it possible that I, in a sense, caused my partner to react X, Y, and Z? Just so we got that.
I like that. So let's try this. Let's talk about a few things where accountability come in. And the first thing I want to talk about is going to be relationships. How are we accountable in relationships? And for me, it really comes down to no matter what it is. But one of the most important things that I like to be accountable for is I've matured over the years is accountability and communication. Because a lot of us don't know how to communicate. We think we're communicating, but we're talking at people instead of talking to people to try to understand where they're coming from. And it's difficult at times when you haven't learned how to communicate properly or well to accept that you're wrong about something in the heat of the moment. So I think that's one of the areas of communication in relationships is where You must hold each other accountable. And I would say this: it's not difficult if you put your ego aside.
That's facts. Yeah, so to add on to that, right? Also holding yourself accountable that if you did anything wrong or you feel like there's something that you need to discuss immediately, if you can't articulate your words, if you can't say how you truly mean in a way to where it can be received, it's okay to take a step back and say, listen, I might say something that I'm gonna regret. I might say X, Y, and Z. Just give me a little time. You can go ahead and add a time limit. Hey, just give me an hour or two, maybe give me 3, 6 hours. Let me calm down. Then we can come back and doing it. That's taking accountability because regardless of how you feel about a situation, it's always important to allow your partner to kind of gauge and see where it is that you're at. The downfall of that though is if you don't do any of that and then you just go full throttle because you and your feelings, or just like Big Bro said, you got pride and you got ego that's playing heavy on your mind and your thoughts, and you just kind of just going full throttle and not allowing that person to kind of get a feel for what it is that you mean, and how to accept that in a positive way. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. The next area I want to talk about is going to be in finances in a relationship when it comes to accountability. If you know that you like to spend money, don't be trying to manage the finances. Leave that to the responsible person. Because if you can't manage them, you can't manage them. But you have to be willing to put your ego aside, it all back to ego, right? And let that person do it. Now, when it comes to finances, though, what I've learned over the years is that you have to have a plan, a short-term and long-term plan. And just because I don't know how to manage the finances doesn't mean I'm not involved in the finances. I mean, you can be, but I think you're setting yourself up for failure, because if something were to happen, Lord forbid that it did, and you don't know how to manage the bills and things like that, then what are you going to do? So I think what you have to do is, for me, I always like to have a plan. Monthly, we'll meet, and then maybe annually, quarterly, we'll talk about things. But we have set times that we're going to sit down and talk about finances. But don't be hands off when it comes to it. And if you can't manage them, don't be bullish and say you want to manage them. Just let your ego go and let the other person do it. And it doesn't matter who does it. The one thing I don't like to hear is when people say that it's 50-50. The finances that come into the household are 100. You figure out how you're going to divide them out into whatever you're dealing with within your family. But there is no breadwinner. Everybody's a breadwinner. There are different breadwinners, so don't get caught because you make more money. Doesn't mean that your spouse is not a breadwinner, whether it's the male or the female. So stop doing that because you just belittling the person. I'm trying to keep it on finances, but I just want to put that part in there, legendary.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of talk about it a little bit when we talk about being equally yoked in a sense, especially when we're talking about marriage, right? It's funny because a lot of us feel like our person is our person and that we can trust them with everything, right? I mean, you understand that it's a possibility that you can get your heart broke, but you still choose them. That don't stop with just saying that, hey, that I love you. That involves finance. That involves things that make you, in a sense, uncomfortable, or things that could possibly ruin you as far as your career wise, as far as your finance wise go. But you just got to understand that not everyone is going to be perfect. And if you know that your partner is kind of lacking in a sense of finance, then hey, take control of it until you both kind of come to a compromise. Like, hey, I feel like you can handle this or I can handle that. But it goes right back to what Big Bro said. Like, if you know that your finances is bad, or you know that you're not real good with finances, don't take the lead in it. It's okay to follow. And that it don't mean, what I'm saying, because you're a man, you should be in charge of, finances, things of that nature. If you know that your spouse is better with that, then by all means. But what we don't want to happen is one person is completely in the know of all the finances, and then God forbid anything happens, and then your partner don't know where to allocate money, where the bills is going, or as far as like what needs to be paid, etc. In case something happens, your partner needs to be able to pick up the slack. But again, it also goes with accountability in the aspect of like, hey, I know that I'm not good with money. I know if I see that we just got paid, we got this joint account, and I see that right now we got 12K in a bank account. That don't mean that I could just go out there and just go purchasing stuff like crazy because I feel like I deserve that, especially without involving your partner. Also dealing with credit too, right? That's just something that you should talk about prior to you saying like, hey, we're gonna do this for real. Not saying that's gonna be a downfall of the relationship, but I feel like your partner needs to know your strengths and weaknesses. And that's not a bad thing. They should take you for who you are. But the difference is your partner will help you in that aspect to get you to where it is that they feel like you both should be. So if you fall in that category, it's okay. All right. Not everyone's perfect. The difference is, can you learn from it? Are you willing to pull in the work versus you just, being closed minded and saying, hey, nah, like I've been doing this my whole life and it got me thus far. I'm not changing.
Right. And just to add on to that, to go back to it a little bit, is that just because the other partner is handling all the finances, it doesn't eliminate you being responsible for the finances as well. Like he said, like I said, that can get overwhelming at times. If that person happens to make a mistake and y'all have talked about something, there should not be a blame game because everything should be talked about. You should not be able to have that person out there on a limb by themselves, and then they make a mistake, and you, well, why'd you do that? Or why? No, it has to be team all the way. Period. All right. Next thing when it comes to relationships and accountability, we talk about this a lot, Legendary, and you're gonna like this one. I think I didn't tell you what it was, but not weaponizing sex.
Oh man, I talk about that all the time.
Yes, not weaponizing it. That has to be, you have to be accountable to your partner to meet their needs. You cannot be someone that turns them off because let me give you a scenario. For instance, if it's me and my spouse, girlfriend, or whatever, and we haven't been together for say 3 weeks, and I'm trying to come on to you, but then you send me out of the house. You send me out of the house like that. There's someone out there all the time that's trying to take your spot. Not that I should be receptive to it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're going to send that person out of the house like that, you're sending them to the wolves because y'all know it. Y'all seen it happen a lot that you got to be responsible, accountable when it comes to that because that's a two-way street and you have to be willing to compromise. Period. Legendary.
Yeah. So, um, it starts off with learning your partner, right? Especially if you just starting off, and or maybe you know what I'm saying you've been together for a while. It genuinely starts with you learning your partner. So just like Big Bro said, like right, if I'm upset for whatever reason, and my spouse, my significant other, she come in and she was, she's like, hey, I'm trying to get some. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm pissed off. All right, that's okay sometimes, but the problem is when that is a repeated pattern, right? That's when it becomes a problem. So we understand there's going to be days to where I'm tired. There's going to be days to where you're tired. We understand that. The problem is every time you get mad or every time you get in your feelings, you kind of shut down. Or, and it can be me as well. Every time I get in my feelings or every time I feel like you did something wrong, I'm going to shut down and not get you none. That's weaponizing sex, right? Or when you make it feel like it's a reward, right? So meaning you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this prior to you getting some. Don't do that because when you do that, like you have to understand the message that you're sending. And just like Big Bro said, like, listen, we're not justifying cheating. We're not saying that we're going to go out there and look for it and etc. But when you do that over a period of time, you got to understand the mentality that you put in your partner in. There are plenty of people that y'all know out there in the world who would easily just, come through and say, hey, I give you X, Y, and Z. I give you what you want. She ain't treating you right or he ain't treating you right. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying that we are receptible to that. But at the same time, you just got to take some type of accountability and you can't weaponize sex, especially when that's something that your partner is real passionate about. All right. So just kind of keep that in mind. I could go a little deeper than that, but we ain't trying to get banned early. Now listen. Listen. I'm a wagon man, right? I love grabbing. You know what I'm saying? Love me some wagons, and the fact that my partner would know that, you know what I mean? And then like, oh, she get upset and she's like, hey, don't touch me for 2 weeks. Don't touch me for a week. I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? So don't do that.
Yeah. Right. I like that, man, because what people don't realize is that should be a normal process in your relationship. It should not come attached to anything but what you're doing. It should not be attached to whether you're mad, whether you're upset, whether you none of that. It should be something that's normal, and it should be something that's regular. If both people are healthy and able, because if not, that I mean, what are you doing? Why are you with the person anyway? All right, next
Oh
one.
wait.
Okay.
Just to add to that, then we can move on. But the fact of the matter is, like, I want my partner to crave me all the time. You know what I mean? Like all the time. Like I want like just the look of me or just the thought of me to like turn my partner on. You know what I mean? And it's different when we talking about lusting versus you truly loving someone and wanting to show them daily or on a consistent basis how you feel and how they make you feel, and you want to show them how appreciative of it that you are. And it can not only be sex, right? It can be other things, but for the most part, is for me, and it's simple. Hey, come over here. You know what I'm saying? So like, just be cognizant of what it is that you're doing and how you're relaying your intentions.
And one more piece to add to that, I just thought about it, is that the accountability starts the moment you wake up. It doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts from when you wake up, when you know that your partner likes coffee when they wake up. They wake up and smell coffee in the morning. You know that your partner likes their cereal, certain whatever. You know that your partner likes roses. You know that your partner likes getting calls, texts during the day. All of that starts out well before you make it to the bedroom. When you get to the bedroom, that's when the rainbows shine and the fireworks go and all that, because you've been doing all you need to do during the daytime. So don't just let it start in the bedroom. And this goes for men and women. It's not always the man's responsibility, and it's not always the woman's responsibility. It's a team accountability thing to make it work.
Right.
All right, we can get on that topic another time. We're gonna get off that and move on to something else. How about when it comes to accountability towards family, and I mean family outside of your wife and your kids? What kind of
Yes.
accountability we talk about with that? Yeah.
When it comes to that accountability and we keeping it as far as your relationship goes, I'm going to, hear my family members out in a sense, but I just don't want to portray that it is going to be the do all be all when it comes to the final decision. When it comes to my spouse or my significant other. So, for an example, if I talk to my sister about, hey, I've been feeling like this in my relationship, I've been feeling like this in my relationship, I'm feeling like this, and then she immediately say, hey, I know where this is going, you should leave her right now. Or I know where this is going, you should go get counsel. Or I know where this is going, this is not going to be good. Even though, she's my sister, I know she has my best interest at heart, but at the same time, I can't put everything that she's saying to me and put that into my relationship, right? That's a no go, because you got to understand that they're going to be biased towards you and not your significant other in a sense. When it comes to that type of accountability, it's easy to just lean into that and take that and run with it. But at the same time, this is where it comes into play to where you have to take accountability in yourself. Even though you're getting all this outside feedback, you still have to include yourself, because you weren't perfect in that aspect.
Right. I think I love that, brother, because you touched on things that are very important to be successful in your relationship. And when you got that stiff arm from people outside of you and your spouse,
That Heisman.
you and I both believe in leave and cleave, right? So when we leave home, we believe that the person that we're with that's our person. And now our family members, they're per se like outsiders, right? Because they don't have a say so in the relationship. They don't have a voice.
Right.
They don't have a 10%. They have just as much rights as a stranger does in my relationship, unless I ask them to be involved in it.
Right.
And that's not being mean. That means that I'm putting my spouse first, and that person knows that she's first. That no one can come into, no matter who it is, can come into our relationship and give advice about what we should be doing. Because at the end of the day, that's who you're gonna be with every night. And if you're bringing your family members to be involved in that and having say so in that, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So I agree 100% that if you start talking to people in your family, when you make up with your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever, they're gonna hold it against that person. They don't have the same responsibilities that you do to say, you know what, I forgive you and move on from it. So don't get them involved. Now I do have a responsibility. When our parents, when they get older, we do have a responsibility towards them. But that's something you should have already talked to your spouse about before you get to that point.
Right.
So we do have accountability towards it because, I believe in that saying, once a man or a woman, twice a child. And that's going to happen if people keep living. That's going to happen. So we do have a responsibility to be there for them. But that's not in the middle, though. If they going out there spending money recklessly and then they come and say, can I borrow? No.
Yeah. So, and then again, the downfall. While we're on the subject, the downfall of you not saying no to your family members or people outside that is it'll come to a point to where they're solely relying on you, and they know that they can guilt trip you, and two, they just know that you're going to always be there for them in a sense, and that's not always a good thing because if people can rely on you in that aspect, and then you need to draw a line because it's going to come to a point to where they're going to use you, right? They know that you're gonna be there, so they're gonna spend their money and like, hey, I'm about $800 short this month, man. I need you to come through for me. You know what I'm saying? So just kind of be accountable in that aspect, and it's okay to say no to family members. A lot of us, for whatever reason, feels like we owe them X, Y, and Z. Again, know the difference between helping someone and then getting used by that person as well.
I like that. What do you think about when it comes to the kids, adult kids, and accountability towards them?
All right, so we talk about this all the time as well. Listen, I love my kid. I love my kids to death, right? But when it comes to relationships, again, just like with family members, my kids will not be the do all end all in a sense, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say for whatever reason I'm starting to talk to this woman, right, and we're getting good. We months in, I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Look, I need you to come meet my kid. You meet my kids, etc. And then for whatever reason, my kid's like, nah, dad, I don't like her. I don't think she's the one for you. Now, I'm not gonna just end my relationship because my kids feel like that she's not the one in a sense, right? You got to understand that even though your kids feel like that, when they're older, they're gonna leave the house. When they get into their relationships, they're gonna understand where we're coming from. So if you listen to your kids in that aspect, now listen, don't twist my words, right? It's different when the child are being harmed or things like that. If that's not the case, if you listen to your kids and you kind of quote unquote miss out on your blessing when they get older and they move on and they have, their husband and their wives, you're still gonna be lonely because you felt like you owed it to your kids to listen to what they say in a sense, kind of live your life through them. Don't do that. In my own opinion, it's okay to have disagreements in a sense. It's okay to not see eye to eye, but you got to understand the importance of the potential of your significant other, especially, right, if she's your wife or especially if he's your husband. Listen, just like we said, no one comes before your husband. No one comes before your wife. All right. So just kind of keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, with the kids, it's simple for me. I love them to death, and I always will. But they just can't come before us. It's not possible. And if it is, then you don't need to be married or be in a relationship with the other person. You need to just go live with them and do your thing with them. Because if they come before me, I'm gonna feel some kind of way about that. If they come before you, you're gonna feel some way about that. And it's more difficult when you have blended families. Now you're introducing a whole new ball game. Then, so you just have to work those things out. Open, honest communication up front is what you should be doing. That should be one of the key things if you have kids in to talk about at the very beginning. All right, brother. Anything else on it? Go ahead.
So, yeah, to add on to that too, you just got to understand when you with your partner, you're one. You know what I'm saying? Like when you make that promise before God and you make those vows, you're one. So how can someone else come between you? That makes sense. How could someone come between y'all? Y'all are one. You're the same. So this is why we say it's important to live your own life. It's important for you to, in a sense, do your own thing. Now, again, don't discredit them and make them feel like, you don't see where they're coming from, but it's your job. When it comes to the accountability portion, to say, hey, I understand how you feel, but we got to see this through.
Yeah. Let me say this thing. This as one thing. He and I both believe it because of what we believe in biblically. But as one doesn't have to also always be based on biblical terms, but we do because that's what we believe in. But regardless of what you believe in or don't believe in, your partner you should always be trying to achieve the goal of be as one. Always. It should not be no separation. When you have separation, you got room for things to come in between you and your partner. So it should always be as one. That's all I want to say about that as one thing. Anything else on accountability you want to talk about?
Now I feel like we can open it up
Okay.
for questions for
This
accountability.
is a segment where we're going to open it up for 5 questions. And all we ask is that you be respectful when you come in. And we're going to have an opinion. You're going to have an opinion. That's okay. But be respectful. And in the next segment, give someone else an opportunity to ask a question, please. All right. First question. You want me to bring one person in the box?
It's up to Oz and Lee. I don't see a problem with it. I know they can't pin the question, huh? So I guess we got to just be fast.
Yeah. All right. The first one says, I think it's from Katrina. It said, if both parties' job, it's both parties' job to make sure each other is happy at all times. Is that a statement or a question?
No, she was just saying. She was clearly
Okay.
saying.
All right.
I agree.
All right. Yeah, we agree.
Just ask the question in the chat. Yeah, just ask the question in the chat. We'll see.
If there are no questions, we're gonna move on because we can't wait. So,
I'm sure they have a question. Somebody has a question.
all right, I'll be patient. I'm normally patient.
Look, I'm sure somebody have a question.
What's the topic? We're talking about accountability in all areas, whether it's in your finances, whether it's in your sex life, whether it's in your dealing with your family members and kids. We're just talking about accountability in your relationships, whether it's with family members as well. How do you talk about finances with your person? Go ahead, legendary, and I'll follow up if I need to.
Yeah, I mean, like for most of us, we feel like it's pretty simple, but you got to understand that not everyone finances up to par to how you genuinely feel they should be. And it's simple, but it's tough because just like we said earlier, you got to put your pride and your ego to the side. It's genuinely you just being straightforward with the question, and then kind of peeling that onion back, so to speak. Once you start the conversation, so if I was to start that conversation off, it was like, listen, you know how? Because I'm real big on finances. Anybody who is with me know how I am with finance. So I generally start with the question, hey, what is it that your finances looking like? And if they give me some broad statement, I would want them to kind of, bring that in a little bit. And if they need help, then obviously, I'm going to help them. So, okay, so I understand that you're saying that your credit is not where you would like it to be, but why do you think that is? Or what do you feel like is on your credit report? Or I understand that you feel like you spend a lot of money when you go to eating out or et cetera, but what do you feel like is the real reason as to why you consistently, eat out versus you cooking? And then you just kind of just keep going, you keep pulling that onion back until, you kind of get a true understanding of what it is that they're going through as far as like their spending habits. But it's genuinely just asking the question. There's no way around that.
I don't have much to answer other than just agreeing with you that it's just talking about it. And it cannot be something that you don't talk about. Because if you don't talk about it, then it's going to cause problems later on. So you have to talk about that up front. I would say that's just as communication is, that's one of the top things that causes problems in a relationship is finances. So you have to be willing to talk about it openly. And then when you agree to something, you stick to that. You can't say you agree. So what I did in my previous, I had like what it was called, like if you want to call it an allowance. I had so much money that went to me and I could do whatever I wanted to do with that money. But that was an agreed upon amount and I couldn't keep going back. If I ran out of money in 2 weeks, I was just out of money in 2 weeks because that was something we agreed upon. So I would say you have to talk about it to make sure that you're on the same page with it because finances can really wreck you, not only the relationship, but wreck your financial history as well. And Legendary's talked about this a lot, your credit report. It can tear your credit report up if you don't handle your finances well. So just talk about it. And it's just open communication.
Yeah, and then you being on the opposite end of that, meaning that you're the one with the problems, it's just you genuinely being open with your partner. It's just again, you putting that pride to the side and saying, listen, my credit is not where it needs to be. And it's just you allowing them a choice in a sense, right? They not in the dark, they not second guessing. You're not forcing them to choose, it's you giving them a choice. And then if that person is for you, they're gonna do whatever it is that they can to help you, learn from that and or recover from that. Or they might say, hey, what I'm saying, I hold finances to a high regard, and because your finances is not up to par, hey, I don't see myself with you. And you genuinely have to be okay with that because you got to understand accountability. You was the one who put yourself in that situation. And it's easy to say, oh, it happened because of my marriage or it happened because I got a divorce. I'm not discrediting it. But at the end of the day, it's still your credit. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Right. Eyes and Lee, keep me straight. But I think the next question was from Miss Mika to Miss Mika to you. It says, when it comes to finances, do you think you should only date in your tax bracket?
Nah.
For me, for go ahead, legendary.
Yeah. So I just want y'all to know. I don't want to speak for men, all right? But you got to understand that men don't care about how much money you make or how little amount of money that you make. We don't care about the credentials. When I say that, I don't mean we don't care as in we don't care. We care is just we won't recognize that as far as you saying because of those accolades, I should be in charge, or because of those accolades, I feel like I'm better than you. Because men, we don't like we're natural leaders. We're not like we have that. It's instinctive. Like it comes natural to us. This is why when you hear about the dating pool, for an example, and if you was to ask, women what they would like in a man versus a man what they would like in a woman, a man wouldn't say, "Oh, I need a woman making six figures." I want a woman making seven figures. We don't care about that. You know what I mean? That's not a priority to us because regardless if you have it or if you don't have it, we gonna have it. And if not, it's our job to go out there and go get it. So yeah, it's not gonna matter to a man like that. What you got?
Yeah, it's this phenomenon that's been going on for the last 5 to 10 years, I say, where that's a key topic. I'm the breadwinner. I'm the breadwinner. I'm making more than him. I'm making more than him. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just because a spouse is not out working or not making as much as you, he and I subscribe to when you come to a relationship, you bring 100% to the table. You should be bringing 100% to the table all the time. That's not just finances. Finances is one piece of it. It should be more than finances. It should be who's helping, who's doing the cleaning, who's helping with the homework, who's doing the cooking, who's running to the store. It's all sorts of things that go along with it other than just the finances. The finances is just a small piece of it. Now, it's important that you manage them the correct way. I'm not saying that. But what he's trying to say is that should not be the determination about whether somebody's leading or whether somebody is not leading, whether someone is better or more important. None of that. It's a part of the relationship.
Yeah, hey, 100% agree. And the biggest problem that we have in today's society now is, and again, all right, don't twist my words, is a lot of people just kind of use their accolades as far as like, I've accomplished this, so I should be head of my household, or I should be the leader in that sense. And that's just not the case. And or you've been through a bad period or a bad relationship to where you was kind of forced to be that breadwinner. And now you don't know how to turn it off in the sense of being that feminine side and saying, hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to let you lead. I'm going to follow. And you just got so used to being in charge, or you just got so used to being the breadwinner to where you don't know how to turn it off. A lot of people equate that to like, oh, a man see that and like, oh, we're scared or we're intimidated by that. We're not intimidated by that. We say that all the time. I don't care how much money you make, how much little money, we're not intimidated by it. It's just the fact that we don't want you to give off masculine energy that you make it feel like you should be the one in X, Y, and Z because of what you made or what you've accomplished in a sense.
If you really sit back and think about it, most men are the reason he's saying that they're not intimidated by the finances. They're concerned with the negative condemnation that comes along with someone making more finances. That's what the issue is. It's not the money. It's what they're going to have to endure because they're not making as much as that person to have a peaceful home.
Yeah, when it comes to helping someone with that has low credit, again, first things first, right? You not choosing for your partner, right? You allowing your partner to choose for themselves. So if I was getting into a relationship and she told me like, hey, her credit is not up to par, now I have a choice of saying, hey, you know what I'm saying, because your credit, I don't feel comfortable. Hey, I'm going to leave right away. That's my choice, right? I have that privilege. Or I can say, hey, regardless of what happens, I feel like you're the person, and I'm gonna do everything I can to help you because I know in the long run, once your credit is good and my credit is good as well. Listen, we unstoppable. Ain't nothing gonna stop us from it.
We are firm believers in whatever's being brought in. Say, for instance, if you have a one partner making 120, another partner making 60, that's how much. That's 180. That's a whole. It's not divided up in any way other than to handle things within the household. So we have to stop, and we have to also communicate that to our friends. Stop them from doing it because a lot of men will walk away from you no matter how pretty you are, no matter how big that wagon is, because that's not something they want to deal with. We'll leave that there. That'll be another topic for another day. We can talk about that all day long, you know. But anyway,
The next segment we're gonna switch gears, like Big Bro said, is spinning the block. For those of you who don't know what spinning the block is, let's just say that you was in a relationship and for whatever reason it didn't work out. And you let time kind of pass, and then they kind of, your other partner or you kind of try to ease their way back into another relationship with them after you have already broken up. It can be divorced, it can be, you know, you were just girlfriend and boyfriend, it didn't work out, but it's just essentially you going back to that person and trying a second time. That's all it is. All right. So the question: would you, in a sense, go back to your ex, right? Would you, in a sense, spin the block? Now, I'm a very open-minded individual, okay? And a lot of people are not open-minded, and I'm not trying to force you to do that, right? But here's my thought process with that. There are two distinct differences when it comes to spinning the block, because you immediately say, oh, hell no, we broke up for a reason. I'm not doing that. I'm not giving another chance. But then you're kind of saying that people don't mature in that aspect. Now, before you start twisting my words, I don't believe in spinning the block. Okay, just so you understand that. So what I mean is, let's just say that we get into a relationship, right? And let's say that I genuinely try, but for whatever reason, I feel like I'm not where I need to be. And I get it. You're gonna say, well, then why were you in a relationship? Just follow me. I'm not where I need to be, or I'm not the person I need to be, or I'm not, you know, comfortable where I'm at to support you or to love you properly, etc. Whatever the reason is, I acknowledge that early on and I say, hey, because I feel like I'm not ready, I don't want to drag you down with me. I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. I need to, whatever it is, fix myself. I thought I was ready. I did counseling. I did this, and I'm not. I think we should end. Okay? We do that. She respectfully says, you know, okay, I appreciate you for not leading me on. I appreciate you for kind of acknowledging that early. And then you break up. And then let's say a year or two pass. And for whatever reason, you meet up again and you're a different person because you matured. And now you're like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You start talking again. And it's like, hey, I want to give this another try. When it comes to that, I can understand that. Okay, because there was no ill will involved. There was no cheating involved. There was none of that. And again, I'm open-minded. Okay, so when it comes to that, I can understand that. Me personally, I feel like that rarely happens. I'm not saying it don't happen. I just feel like it rarely happens. Now, the main one that everyone kind of can kind of get jiggy with in a sense is someone did something wrong, right? It could be both parties. It could be one partner. Somebody did something wrong, and you broke up. You're like, you know what? That's unforgivable. Or you know what? We broke up, and we're like, hey, we just not meant to be together. That's the spinning the block. I feel like it's not worth it. Now, again, I don't want to say that people can't change, but in a sense, I kind of already know what's down that road. That makes sense. Meaning, I know what it felt like when X happened. I know what it felt like when you cheated on me. I know what it felt like when you lied to me. I know what it felt like when you stole from me, because those things do happen. And when you feel like that, there's a difference between forgiving someone and still being with them, and then forgiving someone and not being able to be with them. So if you forgive someone and then because you forgive them, that don't mean that you're obligated to stay with them, because those feelings and those emotions, you can only hide those for so long. And if you're not giving your partner 100% of you, then you shouldn't be in a relationship anyway. So if you come to that roadblock or you come to that closed door and you're like, hey, I forgive you, but there's no way you and I can be together again. Then that's okay, right? You take that for what it is and you move on. For me, right, a lot of my quote unquote motivation, all right, because I'm a very humble individual, right? I'm not perfect, just let y'all know that, but I'm humble. And I say this all the time. When I was in high school, man, there was a lot of people that, I tried to shoot my shot with. And when I tell you they turned me down, I'm talking about turn me down. Like, I wasn't always like this, how I am now. And I get a lot of friend requests and people inbox me as far as like from high school. That's like, hey, you should come to our 10-year reunion, or you should go to our 20-year reunion. And I say this all the time. I have bad intentions of going back to my high school reunion because I remember how it felt, And it's not saying that like I don't want to see them, but I know I don't have the good intentions. So it's pointless for me to go back there just so that I can say, hey, yeah, this is what you missed out on. This is what you X, Y, and Z, So in that regards, there's no reason for me to go spin the block again because I have bad intention. And this is me taking accountability, letting y'all know that, hey, I know I ain't the same person I used to be, And because of that, when you didn't see me as, quote unquote potential, then now that, I've matured to the person that I'm supposed to be, I'm not perfect. But now I don't feel like, I'm saying, you deserve that part of me. But what you got?
Hey, bro, can you hear me?
Okay.
I had to touch the screen. My bad. So let me say this first, though, before I give my opinion. Hey, you little petty about that, right?
I'm real petty. Yeah, I don't understand. Listen, and it stems from me going to prom by myself. Right. When you think about it, you're like, hold on, you went to prom by yourself out of all those girls in high school? Yes. They played on my top, bro. So I got bad intentions. I forgive them though. This is why I don't go back to my high school.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's difficult to spin the block only because you didn't break up, you didn't get divorced or whatever for no reason. So if you did it for a reason that hurt you that bad, you can forgive. But I think it's gonna be difficult to go back and try to do it again.
Right.
So that's I agree with what you said, and that's the part I add to it. That's all I have to say about that part.
Yeah, and like I said, there's two parts to it, but the main one that we can all kind of agree with is the wrongdoing. And I think the biggest thing with that is if you can trust that person again after you forgive them, then by all means, right? I mean, who am I to say no? But me personally, I know me. I know my personality. I'm not asking you to agree and or disagree with me, but I know me. And I feel like when I'm in a relationship, right, I'm going to give that person all of me. And if you mess it up in a sense, right, if you betray me in that way, it's help you forever. Even though this is just me being honest. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Like, I'm not going to like keep playing with you and keep doing X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is at that point.
And it's not that you don't forgive them; it's just that you don't want to go through the hurt again, that pain to keep going through. You just want to move on from it. And mine, I'm big on trust, bro. So if I got to the point where we had to get a divorce, we broke up or whatever, I can never trust you like that anymore. It's just tough. So that's all I have for it.
All right, wait, hold on. I feel like we forgot something. This is a mature one, right? It's different when we talk about spinning the block. When we talk about there's no feelings involved, there's no relationship involved. It's just y'all just going to Pound Town. All right. Hear me out. If that's the case and that's all it was, and you comfortable doing that, and your partner's comfortable doing that, then by all means, you can spin that block as much as you want to. It's different when you get into a relationship. Obviously, we know that's done. But if like you can just vibe with that person. So, for example, you haven't talked to that person 8 months, a year, 2 years, but as soon as you see each other, the vibe is on just like that. And all you ever did was just go to Pound Town. Again, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just being honest, right? If that's the type of spinning the block, then I can kind of see that one as well, because that's all it ever was. You both mature about it. You don't have feelings involved. It just is what it is. You just enjoy going to Pound Town with each other. But other than that, though,
let me say a couple of things there. He says, what to consider when spinning the block. I'm just putting these out there. That's what I found. It says, why did your relationship end in the first place, in the first time? How long have you been apart? Who ended the relationship? Who was the collateral damage? What no? What was the collateral damage from the relationship and the breakup? Did you end things on good terms? Are you willing to explore why you broke up? How do you expect things to be different in the future? If you thought about spending money.
Yeah, I mean, again, like there, it just there's something you gotta take in consideration, like lingering feelings, healthy relationship, past relationships, separation, like all those are going to be different from person to person, from relationship to relationship. It really comes down to just like you said, if you can trust that person again, and it's easier said than done because we feel like if that's our person, you know what I'm saying, we're going to do whatever it is that we quote unquote can do to keep that person happy and satisfied and lovable and all that things. But you got to understand, like, things don't always work out how you see fit or how it how you intentionally see how it should be. So that's just person to person. If you can't trust that person again, bro, it is pointless for you to be in a relationship with them. It just is. Unless you just like, hey, we've been together for like 20 years. Go do what you do. I'm gonna go do what I do. But then again, that's open relationship, and then now you're starting to open doors that you can't close. So yeah, you gotta stop that. My biggest thing is if you can't trust that person after they did something hurtful, it's like forgive them, right? You don't want to hold on to guilt and this quote unquote things that make you feel bad, right? Because believe it or not, that is linked to your health, and especially if you hold that to a higher regard than what you should be, or how you should hold it. So trust is a big one. If you can't trust them, it's pointless for you to be with them. If you can forgive them and trust them again 100%, then by all means, see where it goes.
I think we really understand that it's based on your emotions. It's not based on the other person when you can't
Right.
forgive them. It's based on your emotions and your feelings and your health, like you said. It's all based on that. So you have to move on and forgive and just move on and just take care of yourself. And that's that. Do we have any questions on that topic?
And just so you know, it's okay to go get advice. You gonna get professional advice. You can go get advice, right? But you got to understand. At the end, though, it's gonna be your choice and your choice alone. No one can choose that for you. So just kind of keep that in mind as well.
I can forgive, but I can't go backwards though. And if I forgive, I wholeheartedly forgive. I have no ill will towards the person. I want that person to be successful in life, all of that. But the block, if it's been something that we had to break up for or whatever, then yeah, I'm gonna move on. And there's no hard feelings about that at all. It's just moving on and taking care of yourself.
Should a spouse ask new wife to be accepting of ex to be blended? Yeah, when it comes to the ex and the new spouse or new significant other, we got to do what's in the betterment of the kids, right? That's you being mature as an adult. You putting away those feelings or that selfish side of you, and understand that your main priority, right, is protection, the love, and the care that you give your kids in that aspect. So for me personally, the person who I'm with, you're gonna have to, in a sense, like you're gonna have to talk to their mom, and vice versa with my ex. Like she's gonna have to talk and get to know my spouse in a sense, because these this is the person who's going to essentially be in charge while they're here. You know what I mean? These are the people who we're going to entrust and say, hey, okay, I'm now going to shift that to you, and while they're in your care, hey, you're going to protect them and love them just as much as I would, and then vice versa. So when there's kids involved, you have to sit down and have that mature topic as far as how you want to move forward. Um, so for a prime example, when it comes to myself and my son's mom, we sit down and we talk about things like that all the time, right? And I understand that some exes can't in a sense because of safety considerations or etc. But if there's no safety things that's involved, sit down with your ex, especially if you have kids together, and talk about those things. So when those things do come up, you're prepared, right? You're not second guessing or you're not uncomfortable because you kind of already have that understanding. That's where that maturity comes from. And then obviously, you can feel in a sense a lot better moving forward versus, I don't want no bitter baby mama, no bitter baby daddy, and they gonna have all these problems, and all this stuff is just gonna magically come up all of a sudden. So again, if it's safe to do so, sit down with your ex, or sit down, saying with your kids, mom or dad, and you have those discussions.
We're on the same accord. We're good. Yeah, I think a few people have said it's situational. I think everything that you do in a relationship can be situational. Just depending on what it is.
I mean, but I feel like that you shouldn't avoid that. Again, the only time I feel like you should avoid that is when your safety comes into play. And I say that because there are some relationships that ended because somebody was abusive, or someone they did things they shouldn't have done. If that's not the case, and I'm saying, you feel safe, then sit down and have those discussions.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is recovering from heartbreaks, heartbreakers. Go ahead, legendary.
Yeah. Man, this is it isn't tough, but it's always tough to talk about because again, if you don't take accountability, right, then you're gonna feel like you didn't do anything wrong. But the first things first, right? Allow yourself to grieve. And that just means I use it as a way to detox in a sense, right? It's just everything that happened in your relationship, you just take a step back, right? And you go through whatever form of healing that you have to, whether it's you getting closer to family, whether it's you go and talk to your pastor, whether it's you go get professional help, but understanding for yourself what you did wrong in a sense, how you could have done things differently, but most importantly, it's allowing yourself to cry if you need to cry, allowing yourself to hurt if you need to hurt, but just don't stay in that. A lot of times, right, we kind of it's hard for us, or it's uncomfortable on us to just sit down and just reflect in our own feelings about our relationship. And because of that, we tend to kind of just move forward a little too quickly because we want someone else there to kind of confide to, or kind of depend on in that situation. But you got to understand that there are ups and downs with you doing it as well. You don't want another person to be a rebound, meaning you just need them for that season, and then once you find, you truly feel like, hey, I never liked them in the first place, and or this person only likes you because he or she knows that you're vulnerable in that aspect, and then once you're not vulnerable anymore, they don't like you in a sense. So it's important for you to sit back and heal, however that looks. And again, that's from person to person. It's different. You might cry. Maybe you might go to the gym. Maybe you might, just go back to church and get those groundings techniques again. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's music. I don't know, but it's different from person to person. The truth of the matter is, you have to heal. You can't go into a relationship and you're not healed, because now, when things feel too good to be true, you're going to self sabotage. And I say that all the time. And that's one of the main reasons why you self sabotage, because you're so used to things being wrong that when things are good, you don't know how to react to them. You don't know how to relate to them. So you're like, that's too good to be true. I've been here before. This person is going to mess up soon. I'm just going to wait for it. So don't do that. And then again, you can set boundaries. That's another way. You set boundaries like, hey, until I feel like I'm properly healed, I'm not going to entertain someone. I'm not going to leave people alone. I'm not going to do all that, because one, you're mature, right? And then, just like we said, accountability, you got to take accountability in your actions. You can't say that you can give yourself 100%, or the other way, you can't give yourself 100% and then you expect 100% from the other person. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to them. So kind of keep that in mind as well. And then the last one I would tell you is just be patient, right? Don't go out there and just seek relationships because you're scared to be by yourself. All right. It's okay to be by yourself for a while. You take that time to heal, figure out things that makes you happy, like genuinely makes you happy, not of how other people make you feel, but you essentially making yourself happy. Figure out what those things are. And that requires patience, because a lot of us, right, we're uncomfortable being by ourselves. We need that other person to kind of validate our feelings or validate things that we're doing, so that we can kind of equate that to like, hey, yeah, I feel good about this, or yeah, I'm doing things the right way. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's gonna take patience. If you need to cry, go ahead and cry. don't stay in it too long, because then you start becoming numb to things that you shouldn't be numb to. So just kind of keep that.
I think one of the most important things we have to do is make sure, can you hear me? Is make sure that we healed from it. And if we don't heal, we're going to end up hurting someone because we go into things a little too fast. And then now we've brought someone else into our struggles, our hurt, our pain. And then we end up hurting that person also. So I agree with everything that Legendary said about it. But I just add on to that part is that we definitely have to make sure that we take the time to heal in whatever way that is going to make sure that when we get into another relationship, we're equipped to handle that relationship in a positive manner versus bringing our negative feelings and hurtness into that relationship. And then, like he said, I like the word self-sabotaging the new relationship. I've seen that before. I really have. I've been in that before. And it doesn't feel good. You know, I've been the person that has done that. And I've been on the other end of that where someone, you know, I thought they were into me and they were into me, but I was their reason, I was their healing, I was their rebound, you know. So then when they woke up and found out that they were good, then they were ready to move on. I was like, I thought we were doing good. Yeah, because I was stroking that ego and helping that person get through the hurt and pain. So of course it was going good. And then she realized that Mike G wasn't the right one for her, which I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and that's tough. And then, like, just to add on, this is my last one. Just to add on to that, you just gotta understand when you're recovering from heartbreak. That's a tough thing to deal with, right? And then a lot of people, in a sense, don't know how to cope with that, so they start doing things that's outside of the norm. You know, hey, I'm gonna start freaking going out and clubbing. I'm gonna start drinking until I pass out. I'm gonna start. These are our signs and patterns that you should avoid, especially when you recognize them. That don't mean that they should be consuming you in that aspect even more. This is you taking accountability and taking a step back and saying, "Hey, if I continue to do this, I'm gonna hurt myself and or someone else, and then God forbid you do something that you can't undo in a sense." So just kind of keep that in mind as well. This is why it's important for you to heal properly. Now, there's no proper textbook on how to heal properly, but we're adults. You kind of get the gist of what it is that you need to do, and that's always easier said than done. But it is tough. But I promise you, you can do it. You can get over it. Like when people say like, "This is my person," and I can't see myself with them, and if I'm not with them, then nobody else gonna happen with them. Hey, it's a different line that you're starting to cross. So just kind of be cognizant of that.
We have to understand when we're in some. So you may meet someone, right? And you may be going through that process. I think if you're interested in someone else, you need to have a adult conversation with that person and let them know where you are. Look, I was hurt. I'm trying to get over this, but I really like you. I want to get to know you. And I think the question that Lee put up there is this is going right into that. It says, what about when you build a friendship and support each other through the healing process? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think you have to be honest about your feelings when you're going through that and let that person know what's going on. Because if not, then you're just going to repeat the things that you've done and hurt that person more than likely. But if you're open and honest about how you're feeling about that and let that person know what you're going through and they still want to be there, then they've made an informed decision about being with you based on where you currently are in your mental state.
And if you don't take anything away from what we talked about as far as heartbreak, right? Once you heal in a sense and you feel like you're prepared to go into a new relationship, do not self-sabotage it. All right. When you're used to chaos and things are not chaotic, you feel like it is too good to be true. Do not do that because you're gonna push your partner away. Letting you know that's listen, peace, right? You're supposed to bring peace, not the opposite. And if you're doing that because you feel like this person is too good to be true, you're not healed. You need to take a step back, take accountability, and say, "Hey, I'm not fully healed yet." There's no way you can. Especially if that person is genuinely into you and that person just genuinely wants to show you in that aspect. And then again, you have to understand that people aren't going to do the things that you would do in that situation. Those unrealistic expectations that you have for people, don't do that. When you expect people to react how you're going to react, you're gonna be disappointed, and the main reason is because they're not you, and you have to be okay with that. Now it's different when they're doing things that could potentially hurt you or put their hands on you or anything like that. But if that's not the case, you can't expect people to do what you would do in that situation. They're not you. Your morals are different. Your ethics are different. Your upbringing are different. Those things is what make them unique. And you shouldn't try to change that, right? You should just pray for understanding. That would help. I promise you, it would be. It will definitely be helpful. But when you expect that person to react how you would react in a situation, you expect them to be just like you, and that's not the case.
Right.
So kind of
Just
keep
think
that in
about
mind.
this. How many relationships have you been in that they've been the same? None of them. None of them are the same. So you have to make sure that when you go into it, if you're healed, like I agree, you should be healed, but if you're not, because you don't control when you meet them people, you know what I'm saying? That's why I say that you have to be willing to let that person know where you are in that healing process. And if they choose to be with you knowing that, that's on them. Someone said that you have to be completely healed. You realize there are things that you're going to go through in life that you're going to take years to heal from. And if you wait till you completely heal, you may miss out on the person that could have been there for you and understood you and help you get through that healing process. So I would say just don't put any boundaries on it that are unrealistic, because when you meet people, you meet people. You meet them where they are, but you have to be honest and open about how you are and what you feel in that relationship. That's just how it should be. And it's allowing that person to make an informed decision about your relationship. And if they choose to stay, then that's a benefit, because that means they're willing to take you as you are and not hold that against you. And that's the building blocks to healthy communication in a relationship. All right, brother.
Yeah, yeah. And then to add on that, like if you want to involve love languages, right? And I kind of say this all the time. You got to love people how they want to be loved and not how you think they want to be loved. Like people will tell you what they like, and then a lot of times we're like, "Ah, oh, no, I know what's best for you. Let me do it this way because I know you would feel." Like when people tell you how they want to be loved, like do that. They're giving you the answers to the test. When you like, nah, I know you're not gonna like it like this. Let me do it this way. All right, now that's where you're gonna start having problems because you expect people to respond how you would or how you would take that type of affection, and you got to understand people are different. They are not you. They're not gonna respond the same ways. It's just life.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Do y'all think me and Legendary are the same people? No.
Biggest
We
largest.
have we have like-minded thoughts, but we are not the same people. You're not going to meet anyone else out there that's as unique as you are. So you should not hold any unrealistic expectations of them to be a perfect person. We're all going through something. I mean, for me, my thing that I brought into relationships when I became an adult was I lacked trust. I did not know it at the time, but I lacked trust. And then because of that lack of trust, I would sabotage relationships all the time. It'll be going great. And because I didn't trust that person was going to be who they said they were, I would do some dumb stuff to sabotage. And I didn't know it until I recognized it and I got help for it. And then that helped me out, you know. So yeah, that's something I've dealt with. I still deal with that to this day. If you cannot trust people in relationships, you shouldn't be in relationships because you're going to hurt that person. You're going to hurt yourself, and you're not going to be able to grow as individuals or as a couple. You have to be able to trust. Trust has to, if you choose to get into a relationship with anyone, trust must be given. If you're choosing to get into a relationship with someone, that means you already should trust them. You shouldn't get into a relationship that you don't trust the people. It's not going to work because like Legendary said, you're going to be consistently expecting that person to do something. And I bet you 9 times out of 10, that's not what they're doing, but you're making it up in your mind and projecting it onto them. And they don't have a clue of what you're talking about. Legendary.
If you can't trust that person, don't be with them.
Yeah.
If you can't trust them, don't be with them. All right. I'm telling you, if you don't trust them, don't be with them. I don't care how good they look. I don't care how they are the inside and outside, bro. If you can't trust them, don't be with them. It's that simple. And probably the hardest thing because you like, oh, this is my person. If this is your person and you genuinely feel like that, what is it that is stopping you from trusting them? And then once you start peeling that onion back, you would say, okay, there are some things that happened in your past relationships that you kind of like, you kind of comparing that to because you like, this is too good to be true. Don't do that.
Right.
That is the fastest way to push your partner away. That is so unattractive. And I'm not just picking on women. I'm sure men too. That is so unattractive. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
I agree with you. Hey, the most in one of let me start. The thing that's popular now is knowing people's passwords to their social accounts and stuff. That's a lack of trust. If you have an issue with them being on the socials, you need to talk about them not being on the socials, not having access to their passwords. Let me tell you something. I've been a cheater, and I'll give you all the passwords in the world. I don't do it anymore because I learned my lesson. I grew up and I'm mature. I'll give you all the passwords, and I'll find a different way to cheat if I'm a cheater. And you'll be looking at those accounts and thinking I'm an angel. So if you're gonna use that, I'll figure out a way if I'm gonna cheat. It's gonna happen. So that if I'm going into it, said I want access to your Facebook, I want access to your Instagram, to your TikTok or whatever, that's a lack of trust. It really is. But I've learned in life that, and if I'm gonna be in a relationship, I have to be 100% committed to that relationship. I have to be 100% committed to the person that I'm with, and I have to be willing to avoid pitfalls that could lead me down a road. I have to be, as we talked about, the first thing we talked about was accountability. I have to be accountable for any relationship that I have outside of my lady. I have to be the one to be responsible for making sure that I don't do anything that's going to cause us to have issues in my relationship. Like I love helping people. I really do. But I will not help people to a detriment to my relationship because I'll cut a person off in a heartbeat because my responsibility is to make sure that my lady is okay with me being able to help people, but not to the detriment of my relationship though. I will not do that. So I want to maintain 100% trust in my relationship on going both ways. So I have to do that.
My biggest problem that I have with that in a sense is how can you say that you genuinely love someone but you don't trust them? You know what I mean? Like something's off with that. How can you
That's
say
it.
this is my person, but on the same breath you say, there's something about him or there's something about her, like I can't put my finger on that. That means you don't trust them. Like that's all that is to it. And because of it, right, it's just the self-sabotage just comes into play. And then when you realize you self-sabotaging and then you start apologizing, you expect that person to forgive you because you know that's the right thing they should do. But again, that's you taking accountability and you understanding what you're doing. You're playing a part in that. And if we're being honest, that person has every right to have their own opinion and or in a sense kind of move accordingly when you are possessing or you are showing those accolades as far as you not trusting your partner. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, brother, I couldn't agree more. And let me add one more thing onto that just to try to wrap this up from my side of it. When I got into a relationship, I made sure that the person that I'm in a relationship with now, she understood that I struggled with trust and that it was still a work in progress. That's something that we talked about openly about it. I let her understand where I was coming from so that if I did things that were uncharacteristic of me and my behavior towards her, she knew where it was coming from. And we would talk about that. It's not something that we can't talk about. And that's why I believe in honest, open communication 100%, because I need to let her know that sometimes I may act out of character, but it's not because I want to. It's just I have this trust thing that I do have tools to deal with it. I do. I went and got counseling for it. I got help for it. I really did. I got help for it. I went and got some help for it. So if you need some help, go get some help. But I got the tools to make sure that I could effectively be into a relationship, whether that's a relationship of romance, relationship with my family members, a professional relationship. It was across the board. It wasn't just romantic relationships. I could laugh in your face and smile to you, and I didn't trust you one bit because of the things that I grew up with. I learned not to trust people. So I had to unlearn those things. All right, brother.
Hey, I'm in total agreement. Like I couldn't have said that better myself.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I
I
mean,
love
shoot,
it. I
ain't nothing
love
else
it.
to add on to that. That's 1,000% fact.